All right. There we go. I think we're in good shape now. Took us a little while to get our bearings this morning. Let's see here. Okay. All right. We're at June 19th. So I think we're officially halfway through the year. I just wanted to give you guys kind of a quick update on where I'm at with my progress. Because remember, we got the year-end thing coming up. We're all going to have to take the test again. I want to feel like I'm in a better spot the end of this year than I was last year. So hopefully you guys are all along for that. And for those of you that are new and don't know what I'm talking about, I have a year-end process that I run everybody through, and it's a big long sheet. It's basically just a bunch of questions about looking back at the previous year. So at the end of this year, we're going to take a look back at 2025. And as you answer these questions, it's going to be very revealing of why your income is where it is for 2025. It's just like a x-ray vision into what went wrong or what went right. And that's a blueprint to make the following year whatever you want it to be. If you want it to be twice as good, if you want it to be just the same, uh, it'll give you a blueprint for it. It'll tell you exactly what you missed. And in some cases, like for me, this is especially the case in a lot of things. I get my fingers into too many pies. I'm like, I have the very serious squirrel syndrome, and I get sidetracked and get into a bunch of stuff I shouldn't get into. And that said, at the end of the year, I look back and I say, okay, what was I doing that I shouldn't ought have been doing? And that gets cut out going into the next year. So it's almost like a cleaning and refreshing. And for those of you that have been through it, I always tell you, it's it's good to not wait a whole year to do this. You should probably do this more like quarterly because there's no reason if you're not going in the right direction, there's no reason to stretch that out for a year. I'm pretty well in tune with it, so I do mine every year. And I want you guys to at least do it once a year. So that will be coming up in December. But just to get you on track and get you prepared for it, some of the questions are like, how many of each thing are you doing in your business? And it starts with lead generation. Like, how many lead magnets do you have? And I've been creating lead magnets recently, like they're going out of style. I've been creating little short 2 minute, um, I call them master classes, but really it's a 2 minute tip, is what it is. But together, if you string them all together, there's like 20 of them. If you put them all together, it would be a master class. So it's like little mini master classes. Um, we have another one that we put together. I just recorded it last week with Chris Rimple, and it's a master class showing how to find desperate buyers. And it's all related to the ACT program. All roads lead back to the ACT program. So I'm creating multiple lead magnets all to sell the same thing. Because if you only have one lead magnet and you're selling a particular product that's related to that lead magnet, you're going to have a certain outcome. You're going to attract a certain amount of people. A certain amount of people will say yes to that offer or to that lead magnet. It should be free. But if you have two, I'm not saying you're going to get twice as much because one may be better than the other, but you're going to get more. And obviously, the more of those you have, the more doors you have coming into your space, the more people will enter. And, I always used to use that analogy with SEO. If you have one keyword and you're drawing people from one keyword, you're going to get X amount of people. But if you draw them from five, if all things are equal, you should have 5 times the amount of people. So if that one keyword got you 10 sales a month by having 5 keywords would get you 50 sales a month. So it's all pretty simple math. Not everything is equal. Like I've never seen 2 keywords that were exactly equal, just so you know. Like one might bring 50 people, but only 2 convert. One might bring 5 people and 2 convert. So there's there's no certainty in this game. It's kind of like investing. There's no certainty, and you just have to roll the dice. The more you do, the more productive you'll be. And also at the end of the year, you can take a look back and this is your analysis process. You're analyzing your results. So if you had, let's say you had 10 different lead magnets and only one of them produced, what you would do is you would look at the one that produced and figure out what is it about that one that worked and the others didn't. So you can learn your audience. You're basically learning your audience. And then you create more lead magnets like the one that worked. Don't keep creating the ones that didn't work. Go the other direction. This is all a learning experience. Business is all about learning. You're learning how to develop products that an audience wants. You're learning how to communicate the value of those products with your audience. And you're also doing a bit of detective work, figuring out where they are so you can put that messaging in front of them. And if you do those things, you're going to be more successful than you are if you don't do those things. There's no doubt about it. You know, the amount of success nobody can say, but I guarantee you will be more successful if you do these things. Because if you don't have people coming in, that's a problem. If you don't have ways to attract them in, they're not going to come in. Prospects don't just fall from the sky. That doesn't work. I mean, some people are in a position where they are lucky. They have other people that know what they do, and those other people are mouthpieces for them. They used to call that word of mouth advertising. That's the best advertising there is. And it's because it comes from a trusted source. Like if I refer someone to you, I've already pre-positioned you as the right person for them. So I've already created the know, like, and trust factor, and I just coronated you with it. There's no better form of a lead than that. That's the word of mouth advertising. In the digital space, you can still do that. There's multiple ways to do that. One is with affiliate marketing. You could recruit affiliates, train them on what you do, and basically reward them in affiliate commissions for sending people, for coronating you and sending their traffic to you. That's a really, really good way to do it. That's a good way to recreate the word of mouth advertising for your business. Because the real word of mouth advertising is getting increasingly more difficult. People are changing their habits, their behaviors. And I'm not talking about their psychological behaviors. Nothing has changed there. But the mode of communication is what has changed. Technology has made us lazy, for lack of a better word. I mean, think about 20, 30 years ago, before the internet. If you got a new swimming pool and you knew, hey, I need a pool guy, who are you going to ask? You're going to ask your neighbors that have pools, right? Word of mouth. You're looking for the trusted source. You're afraid to go to the yellow pages, and I'm taking you way back here. And you're afraid to go to the yellow pages because you got 50 there and you don't know any of them and you don't want to make the wrong choice. And you have this high level of uncertainty. So nobody buys when they're uncertain. So that's why word of mouth advertising worked so well. It removed the uncertainty. Bob would say, "Oh yeah, I use Carl. He's been cleaning my pool for 10 years and he's awesome. He's all over it. Who do you think I'm going to hire? Do you think I'm going to go look for someone? No, I'm going to hire Carl." Boom, just like that. So if you can create that in your business and get all these people talking about you, telling their people that you are the best solution for that, who do you think they're going to buy from? That's a pretty simple concept. And you can magnify that by being put on stages. Some of you are just like, "Oh, hell no, I'm not a speaker. I ain't doing that." But speaking is a great way to do this and magnify it. If you can get over that fear, I mean, some people put the fear of public speaking right up next to the fear of being burned to death. Death by fire and public speaking are like neck and neck as far as fears go. But if you can get over that, and some of you are over it, some of you never had that. Some of you are very vocal. You stand out in a crowd, you talk to anybody, you'll walk up to strangers and strike up a conversation. If that's you, public speaking is perfect for you because you won't be afraid of it. And it's a great way to be coronated as being the one to purchase from. Because whoever's putting on the event that's putting you on their stage, guess what they're going to do? They're going to bring you on and they're going to endorse you. Same thing. They are doing it in mass quantity. You can do it one to one, or you can do it one to many. Now, the speaking, again, that's back in the real world. And I always say what works in the real world, you can replicate online. You just have to figure out how. And if it works in the real world, it will work online. You just have to figure out how to put the pieces together and mechanize it. So that's what you do in the online space. The equivalent of public speaking is a webinar. Whether it's live or it's recorded, it doesn't matter. I prefer a recorded webinar myself. I'm great on a live webinar. If you have an audience and you want to put me in front of them, I'm great at it. But I don't want to do it every day. I want to do it once, lock it down, and walk away from it and let it make money forever. That's more my speed. So whenever I do a live webinar, I make sure that I record it. And I'll take that live webinar and I'll put it up as an opt-in page. And guess what? Now I have a lead magnet because I can tell somebody, "Hey, I did this really incredible webinar and it will help you a lot. And it's free. And you don't have to wait for it. You don't have to schedule a time or show up you can watch it at your leisure. Here's the link to it." They get there and they have to opt in. That's my free lead magnet. Now I have a lead in my database and I've got automated sequences going out, touching them over and over and over. Because what do I want to do? I want to make sure they consume the webinar. Guess what the webinar really is? It's a sales presentation. That's what it is. And I want them to consume it. If they don't consume it, I didn't really get a lead and I'm never going to get a sale. If they don't consume my sales materials, I'll never make a sale. Right? Sales don't just fall from the sky. I don't know, if you think that's true, it is. One of the biggest things I've seen people do in business is underestimate how difficult it is to make a sale. Sales don't just come easy. If a sale comes easy, it's because you were coronated. They already know what you have. They know they need it. They know they want it, and they know they want it from you. they've gone a long way down the sales process and they're actually ready to buy. So if that's the case, you will think, oh, sales are easy, but they're not. A lot of things had to happen to get that person ready to actually purchase from you. And that's what you don't want to underestimate. You want to make sure that you create a really solid presentation where you can do all four of the things that I talk about in a sales presentation, which number one is you have to grab their attention. If you can't grab their attention up front, there's no way you're going to hold it through the presentation. They're going to fly. So you have to have a really compelling grabber up front to grab their attention and make them understand why they want this, why they want to consume it. And you always do that. You follow the big idea formula. Grab their attention with the promise of the desired outcome they want. That's what they want to hear. That's music to their ears, that you have something that's going to get them what they really want. If you are not leading with that, you're failing. There's no other way to say it. You're failing if you're not grabbing their attention with a promise of what they want. So that's step number one. Step number two is creating demand and desire. Once you've got their attention, now you have to convey your value. You have to let them know. And here's a couple of things that's really important in the presentation is getting them to understand that the outcome is going to be easy, because it's got to be easy for it to be appealing and keep their interest. It has to be within their grasp. They have to get that they can do this. That's a really important piece. Because most people, their biggest objection, it's a hidden objection. They'll never say it, but they don't believe it'll work for them. They're not going to just come right out and say, well, I don't believe that'll work for me. Especially when you've shown it works for others. They don't want to be the oddball. But in their mind, they are. They're going to think that, oh, yeah, it sounds great. And, it seems to work for everybody else. But I've tried stuff similar and it didn't work and nothing's worked for me. And they have this preconceived idea that it's not going to work for them. They're not going to come out and say your product doesn't work, but they are going to be thinking, it's not going to work for me. So do you think they'll buy it? Not a chance. That's a huge objection. And it's often, in fact, it's almost always a hidden objection. So that brings us to number three. Number three is eliminate the objections before you go to number four, which is make the offer. So it's super easy to eliminate the objections as long as you understand them. Every objection is formed based on a belief. It's their belief, and it's absolutely true in their head. If they believe they can't do it, it's absolutely true. This is not like some hocus pocus that they made up because they wanted it. It's in there and it's living, and they cannot defeat it. It's like taking control of them. So you have to be aware of that. So the belief forms the objection. So you have to understand what the belief is, and then you can use the Franklin belief destroyer or reverser or whatever you want to call it, objection handler. Benjamin Franklin came up with a formula to eliminate objections by reversing the belief. So to be able to use it, you have to first understand what the belief is that's causing the objection. Whatever it is, it makes no difference. Address it as if it is real for them, but you're going to reverse it. You're going to reverse the belief. And you do that with the formula of claim, proof, benefit. The first thing is you make a claim exactly opposite of whatever the belief is. If they think they can't, then you say they can. Just that simple. But you don't leave it there because that's just argumentative. If you leave it there, they're gonna, if they have a chance to speak before you do, they're gonna say you're wrong. I can't. And you say, well, you can. And if you leave the space again, they're gonna say, no, I really can't. And now you've just created a circular argument. That's not what you want. You want to say, you can, and here's why, and take them into the proof. Whatever the proof might be, the proof might be a third party verification, the proof might be social proof. There's a lot of different proof points. If you look at that lesson in ACT about this, where I talk about this, there's a whole slew of proof points that you can draw on to make your point. Because the reason the proof is important is once you prove it, now it's not just your opinion. It's very important that it's not just your opinion that they can, because they have the opinion that they can't, and you just got to butt heads. So once you've done that, once you've locked it in as it's not your opinion, it's a fact, and it's not your fact, it's coming from third party. Third party is how you get out of the opinion mode. Third party is how you lock in, this is a fact. Most people don't want to argue a fact because they don't want to look foolish. They'll argue an opinion all day long. They will flat out make themselves look like an idiot all day long on opinions. But most people, once you prove it to them beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is a fact, they won't argue it. And internally, it just destroyed that little voice in their head telling them they can't. Now, all of a sudden, they can. So you just reversed the belief. Now the belief is in your favor, and that's the perfect time to drop the benefit right in their lap that they wanted, which is generally the desired outcome. So it's claim, proof, benefit. This stuff works. Guys, this stuff works, and it's been working. That particular formula has been working for over 200 years, and it hasn't changed. And I just watched A Few Good Men last night, and these are the facts, and they are undisputed. For any of you that have seen that movie, A Few Good Men, I love that line. These are the facts, and they are undisputed. For 200 years, that has been the facts. So this stuff is really important, that you create these pieces for your business. You've got to have lead magnets. You've got to be drawing new eyeballs to you. And then you've got to have this presentation. You've got to have a way to grab their attention, create demand and desire, eliminate objections, and make an offer. And if you do, you're going to make money. You're going to start selling more of your stuff. If you haven't sold anything, you're going to start selling stuff if you follow that. If you're already selling, but you're not selling as much as you think you should, you will start selling more. I can guarantee that. If you follow those steps, there's no way you're not going to sell more. If you're getting more eyeballs and they're the right eyeballs, remember, analysis will tell you who you should be targeting. So you got to follow all the steps. You can't just like willy-nilly this thing together and you got a couple of pieces, but you're missing some and you're doing the opposite things over here. You've got to follow the steps. You've got to do it in order. You can't jump into traffic before you've created your messaging. You can't create your messaging before you've figured out who you're talking to. It literally is not flexible. I know everyone likes flexibility, but this system is not flexible. It's very rigid. And if it's followed, it works. So I would encourage all of you to take a look at what you're doing and seeing where you're not following the system. Where are you deviating? Those are going to be your points of failure, and that's what needs to be fixed first. If you haven't gone to the very beginning and you have not figured out what you want out of life, you're out of order. You're out of sequence. You're going to struggle. You need to figure out, why are you doing what you're doing? You know, and I heard this like, for many, many years, in fact, decades, as I was going through business and going to seminars and learning from different people. I always heard this saying of, you need to understand your why. And I always thought that was complete bullshit. But put into the context of how it works and how I know it works now, it was it was the truth, but it wasn't explained. Like, the way I explain the why is, you need to figure out what it is you want. And the business that you're building is the vehicle that's going to get that for you. It was never explained that way. I never heard it that way anyway. I just heard, oh, we need to know what your why is. And a lot of times when people would explain their why, it had nothing to do with how they correlated it to money. And I guarantee you, every bit of this correlates to money, because everything you're going to get out of life, I don't care, how you look at it costs money. Our lives cost money to live every day. And if you look at the life you want, that's going to include everything. That's going to include, putting your kids through school. Sometimes that's what they say their why is. Oh, my why is my children. Everything I do is for my children. Well, okay, but those children cost money, and the more money you have, the better you're going to be able to make their life. That's your why. That's the end game of why. So you can provide not just for your children, but for your family, for your friends. You can do things others can't. That's your why. And it adds up to, what does your ideal life look like? And how much do you need to live it? That is the freedom formula. That's the first step. If you haven't done that and you're not really clear on what you want, you're probably never going to get it. It's like, I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to drive somewhere, but I don't know where I want to go. Are you ever going to get there? You're going to get somewhere, probably out of gas. You're probably just going to drive aimlessly until you run out of gas, and then you're going to be stuck. That's the same thing in business. If you know, hey, I'm in Huntington Beach and I want to get to New York City, I can now make a plan. I know how many tanks of gas that's going to take. I can map out my course, and I know exactly where I'm going, and I can plan what it's going to take for me to get there. Your business is the same thing. If you're doing it outside of that, you're just wandering aimlessly in the forest, and eventually you're going to run out of gas. You don't want that in your business. So, that freedom formula is really important to get a clear picture, because then you've got a roadmap. You say, okay, if my ideal life costs me $100,000 a month, and I want you to shoot high. If you come back and you say, oh, well, my ideal life costs, $5,000 a month. Bullshit. You're lying to yourself, and you're lying to me. You don't want that life. You might think that's all you can have, but that's not what you want. I'm asking you what you want, not what you think you can have. I want you to break that bubble and dream outside, and literally remove the constraints. And I'm telling you, if you can have anything you want, what does that look like? Where would you live? What would you drive? Um, who would cook your dinner? How many times a week would you go to the masseuse, or would you have one come to your house every afternoon? You know, Seriously, like, what would make you on cloud nine? Not just what would get you by. I don't want to know that. The freedom formula is about removing everything. What do you want? add a price to it, and then you look at the price and you say, okay, how am I going to get there? How am I going to make that 100 grand a month? What do I have for sale? How much profit is in it? And now I know how many I have to move. Now you have math for your business. You know how many units you need to move per month to live that life. At this point, now you build a marketing campaign. You start doing your analysis looking for a profitable segment of a market. And this is going to eliminate a lot of segments because you're going to look at it and say, that's not big enough to justify my sales goals. Out, gone, boom, just like that. On to the next one. You've got to find the way to make that ideal life, or you're just kidding yourself. You're just creating a job and you're happy with that. You just don't want to answer to anybody. And, I mean, that's okay. If that's what you really want, that's okay. But I think you want more. And I know I want more for you. So that's why I show up here every week to keep drilling this down in. And I'll be here until you either make it or you just say, I just want to go back and have a regular job. And that's going to hurt my soul, by the way, for any of you that take that path. But you see how it's really important to stay the track and start where you need to start, which is the freedom formula. Figure out why you're doing this. Why do you want a business? Why don't you just settle? Because you don't want to. None of us want to settle. If you were a settler, you wouldn't even be contemplating business. Look at people. You probably are surrounded by people that work and have never tried anything except getting up when the alarm clock rings, going to the job that they hate, coming back, and doing it again the next morning. You're probably surrounded with those people. They don't want anymore. They've settled. They're happy. They've convinced themselves they're happy because they don't think they can do it. They don't think they can do anything other than that. That's a really sad thing. They've convinced themselves that. And guess what? They're right. You can't walk up to them and say, oh, you could have a better life. I say, no, I can't. Unless you use the formula, claim, proof, benefit. Now you might be able to change their belief and guide them to water. But in their head, they are where they're at and they believe it. And it's true. And it's the same thing like Eric Lapham. I've talked about him many times, and I've actually come back into conversation with him recently, just out of the blue. He saw what I was doing with AI and he's interested. He saw the video I made for ClickBank and he's like, holy shit. He goes, I need to learn how to do that. But one of the things that he says is if you're not selling, and he's a sales trainer, he's all about teaching sales. And what he says is, he says, if you're not pushing hard to sell your product, you're doing your potential customers a disservice. And one of the most powerful examples I ever saw was the one that he used. And he said, think about it this way. He said, just suspend disbelief for a minute and believe that you have the cure for cancer. And there's a little girl that is going to die of this cancer, and her parents have the belief that they need to follow the protocol of doctors, and the doctors don't have a cure, and you do, and you know it. How hard would you fight for that little girl to get her parents to understand that you can save her life? How hard would you fight for her? And that's how hard you should fight to get people to understand your product will get them what they want. I mean, I just used the most extreme case of that I've ever seen or heard of. But when I heard it, it clicked. I'm like, holy shit, I'm not fighting hard enough for my customers to make sure they get what they want. That's why I'm here. That's why I do what I do, so they can receive the benefit of what I can give them. Right? It's the same thing as the cure for cancer in the little girl. So you have to you have to honor what your customers want enough to fight for them to get them to understand that you are the solution. You can get them what they want. And that really, I mean, that alone can change your whole tact. That can change your your firepower. You know, it'll change your aura, whatever you want to call it. It'll give you more incentive to be better at sales. I know before I went through Eric's program, I hated sales. I just cringed at the idea of it. And because I have a certain understanding of it now, like what I just described, I get the importance of it and I've been able to embrace it, not in a way of being like a used car salesman. That's the thing that made me hate it. I never wanted to come across like that. But coming across as helpful and being able to get people what they want, I am all in alignment with that. Like that aligns to my core. So, with that, understanding that, then sales became very easy for me. You'll never see me ask someone for an order. I will create so much demand and desire that they will want it to where they ask me, how do I get this? Where do I sign up? All of that. I've always done it that way. So that makes me feel good and I can do all the sales I want in that box and still remain in my own skin. I don't like getting out of my own skin. And that's like, you know, when I think about the used car salesman, you guys ever gone to a car lot, even a new one? Like you walk onto a Ford dealer and it's like out of the corner of your eye, you see three people coming at you. It's just like, you know, the spiders coming to the fly. It's like, oh shit, you just feel greasy. Like, I got to get out of here. So don't make your prospects and your customers feel that way. Don't hunt them down and box them in. Let them like put an offer out and let them follow. You know, and I saw this in the reverse format. This is how I learned negotiation as a kid. My dad took me to Mexico and there was vendors on the beach and these vendors are selling their stuff, right? And they're very aggressive. They like come at you and my dad said, if you want something, just walk away. Show an interest and then walk away. And I did that. And you know, I think I don't remember what it was. I think it was a wooden carved fish that I really liked. I saw it. I'm like, oh yeah, and I showed interest in it. And then when the guy told me the price, I think he said it was $10. I said, oh okay, thanks. And I turned and started to walk away. And he chased me. He said, amigo, how about $8? I said, no, that's okay. And I kept walking. And by the time I got about 100 yards away, that thing was down to $2. So it was the reverse. I showed an interest. So in the sales aspect, what you can do is you make an offer of the free thing, and it's kind of like a take it or leave it. I don't really care. I've got this really valuable thing, and if you don't want it, no big deal. Don't chase it and try and jam it down their throat. Do the other, just walk away, and they will pursue you, just like the Mexican guys on the beach selling their wares. That's what you want. That's if you have somebody that's pursuing you to get what you have, you're in a really good spot. This does a lot of different things. It builds a lot of authority because they're showing you they believe you are the one for them. And that's a really great position. Just don't take advantage of it. Make sure you remain helpful and in good honor, in this process. So any questions? You guys, I've been rambling on here for like 45 minutes. I'm not sure if you even care about what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Hey, John, where can I get the test you referred to? I'm pretty new to this still, so I've never seen it before.
Oh, okay. I believe it is in the ACT membership.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly where it is. I think it's under the resources. If not, send me an email. I'll look it up and see where it's at. But I think it's in the resources.
Thank you.
Called the year-end process.
Okay, good. Good to know.
And it's really an eye opener when you start answering the questions. Like even when I do it, every year I do it, and every time I start answering the questions, it makes me like cringe. Like, oh God, I know I should have done that, or I only did one of those. Come on, I could do better. So, Gregory, you had your hand up there just a second ago.
Yeah, I did. Well, what you just stated about walking away, that would be the same thing when you did your video. It says if I don't hear back from you, I assume that you're not interested. I'm moving on. To
Yeah,
me, that's the same concept, correct?
exactly. That
Okay.
that is
Because
exactly.
I want to. I'm creating my generic email to start my SendGrid campaign. I got the expo this Sunday. And then after this Sunday, it's SingGrid on my putting on my main calendar, SingGrid all the way down, and that generic thing. So the point is that what you stated in that video and what you just stated now, I come up with generically similar to that to say
Hmm?
if I don't hear from you, that's okay. I'll move on to the next person,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah. I have a couple of analogies that I slide into conversations that bait that. It kind of seeds it. And usually I don't direct it at us at the person I'm talking to. I usually direct it away at others and they get the ramifications of it. And I'll do it in a couple of different ways in relation to a lifeguard. I'm sure you guys have heard me, talk the lifeguard story of, there's people I can help and there's people I can't. When you throw the life ring, you got to grab it. Some people refuse to take the life ring, and I say, I'm just like a lifeguard. I'll save the ones I can and let the sea take the rest. And I'm subtly telling them that they're pretty much fucked without me. That's in a subtle way. That's what I just said. But, and that's really a way in. It's a secret door. It's like a Trojan horse. I'm not directing the conversation at them, but they see themselves in the picture. They want to be the one that grabs the life ring, right? They don't want to be the one that the sea takes. Who's going to want that? So it's the same thing. And you can do it subtly like that. You don't have to tell them, you don't have to be like brutal about it and say, "Oh, well yeah, you're probably not smart enough to take me on this offer." That would be a really dick move to do. Yeah, that's not going to get people to know, like, and trust you. So that's a used car salesman angle. And I hate that. I hate being treated like that. If a salesman starts to talk to me like that, they are done. They don't have a prayer of getting any of my money. They just don't. So it's almost like, do unto others as you want done to yourself. And I think you'll find that very valuable. But do craft ways that you can get the message across of, you're here to save those that you can and let the sea take the rest. Say it in a nice way. And so other questions. And I've got these things I'm working on, these little 2-minute master classes. I don't know if you guys have seen them yet. I've released, I think, two or three so far, but I have a list of about 20 of them. And now that we've kind of got the ClickBank launch dialed in, I'll be able to focus more on finishing up the stuff that I had in process. And they're really cool. And I think they're going to make great lead magnets. But it's basically buying triggers. And they're really, really powerful. And I've got the AI me delivering them. So it's pretty cool. And on the first one, I'm pre-positioning them to open my emails in the future because the AI me comes on and introduces himself and he says, "Hi, I'm John Limbacher." And he says, "Well, really, John created me. I'm built in his likeness." And it says, "But I'm here to deliver his message to you. And I've got, 18 or however many of these things." And he said, "So if you get an email from John, it's probably me. And you're going to want to open it because these things are golden." So it's pre-framing to open all of my emails. And it's somebody else doing it. It's my words, but it's a bot. And it's also the other thing it's to get people to make the transition to trust the AI because they see, God, it looks just like them. I can't hardly tell. Some people know it. Some people know it's not me, but a lot of people can't tell at this point. I've gotten really good at this. The first couple I put out, they were pretty sketchy, but now I've got it pretty well dialed in. And what I learned in creating the hour-long video for ClickBank, I learned a lot about how to really get it lifelike. And I think at this point, I'm going to probably make a few of these where I have two, and you guys try and guess which one is the real me. And I bet you can't. I would be willing to bet you can't pick them apart. So it's cool stuff. Any other questions? A couple. This has got to have raised some questions by now.
How you doing, John?
Good. How's it
Good.
going?
Just to kind of piggyback off what you're saying, HeyGen is really intuitive in how its LLMs are adapted to learn
Oh,
because the more videos you generate, the more dialed in the motions get.
yeah.
And I understand tweaking with the frame rate and the generation of motion that you're using is it produces better results as well.
Yeah.
And even the voice recognition is adaptive because I didn't really like my sound, so
Uh-huh.
I got a 11 Labs. I generated some content with 11 Labs, got the API and imported it into HeyGen, and now it's kind of quirky how much it sounds like me with the Jersey accent and everything. So you started something with that HeyGen and this
Yeah.
video creation. So kudos, buddy.
Yeah, no, HeyGen is really, really powerful. That's the one I've been using. I used a whole bunch of them, testing them out, and HeyGen was the one that I found to be the best at
Yeah.
at the cloning. And like Craig said, it it is really good at learning you, but you can't do it with just one video. So what you do is you create an avatar of yourself, and they require that you do like 2 to 3 minutes of video of yourself to upload it to train it. And the first one I did, I was really impressed. But then I started really getting critical on it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I wish it was better and this and that. And what you can do once you have your avatar, you can make different, I forget what they call it, but you can make different versions of the avatar. like different clothes, different scenery. Maybe one's
Yeah,
just,
photos, as they call it.
yeah. So maybe one's just, head and shoulders, just a talking head. Maybe one's a torso. One might be a full body of you walking on the beach. And as you're creating these more and more poses to put up, it really learns you well. But the more you do, the better it gets. Like after the second one, it improved so much. It blew my mind just by putting the second one up. So the other thing too is it might cross pollinate what it learns from one to another. So like if you're one of the people that love to change your look a lot, this might be problematic. Because you don't want it like cross-pollinating looks coming up with something that doesn't exist. So stay somewhat consistent. Like with me, I keep my hair cut short. And if I let it go within like 2 weeks, I consider it out of control because I'm wash and wear. When I get out of the shower, I drag a towel across it, it's done. One shot. If it gets beyond that, to me, that's out of control. I like hair maintenance is not my thing. I got to be squeegee and done. So when I do the new poses, I need to be aware of that. Another thing I noticed as I get older, this is going to probably sound weird, but my eyebrows grow really fast. And if I'm not like, if I don't like brush them to the side, I did one of the videos and one of them like had hair sticking straight up. And I'm like, what in the hell? And then I looked in the mirror, I'm like, oh, I see where that came from. So it's little stuff like that, just learning the nuances of it. So stay somewhat consistent with when you're adding new videos or new poses, they call them. So that way it really dials you in and learns you. Um, if you're usually very well put together and you always do your hair in the morning and you're picture perfect to come out of your bedroom, make sure you don't do one in your pajamas, with your hair all fluster, because it will affect the rest of it'll affect the training of your avatar. So stay somewhat consistent. So that's one of the things I found to be one of the keys. I think it gets better at the voice too. I was going to do what Craig had mentioned is take the 11 labs and import my voice. 11 labs, I think from a voice standpoint is probably the best one I've played with. The problem with it is to really train a voice on 11 labs, you need almost 3 hours of your voice, which, that's kind of hard to do. When I heard that, I was like, oh, hell no, that's never going to happen. I'm not going to sit here for 3 hours and, record my voice for 3 hours to upload this. And then I realized I'm like, I've got hours and hours, I've got hundreds of hours of my voice from these calls. So I went back and I took several of these calls. I just clipped out anybody else, when we're having a conversation. I just literally just clipped them out and uploaded 3 hours of me talking here to you guys, just like this. And it made a perfect clone of my voice in 11 Labs. It was really, really good. And then I was able to take that and drop that into a lot of the other, they call them lip sync. Prior to HeyGen and a couple others that are pretty advanced avatar builders, they were calling them lip sync. And D-ID it was pretty good, but I would take just a photograph, drop it in there, and then drop the voice, and it would basically just lip sync me. But nothing compared to what we're getting out of 11 Labs or out of HeyGen now. Really, really cool. And I haven't even connected 11 Labs for the voice yet. I've just been using HeyGen straight out of the box, created my avatar, and now I'm just feeding it up more training videos. And you don't have to have a script. You can literally just talk about anything. You can literally just like turn on Zoom and for 2 minutes just kind of look at what's around you and just talk about it. Like, oh, there's a new Ford Expedition just drove down the street. It was green in color. It had hijacked tires on it, this, that, the other. Just describe stuff, whatever. It doesn't matter. Tell it what you're wearing. Tell it what you've eaten for the last 3 weeks. Anything to just create 3 minutes of your voice. And the other thing is always be looking directly into the camera when you're doing it. Another thing is when you're talking, you want to make gestures like this. You want to, put some action to your body. Also, between the sentences, it's important that you break. Like when you get to the period technically of a sentence, you want to stop and pause before you just run into the next sentence. I know there's some people that I'm a slow talker myself, so I don't have too much trouble with that. But a lot of people, they just like they're just like unloading on you. They just talk one after another and they're just all run together. If that's you and you're more excited typically, make sure you just like stop a thought at the end of it, just briefly. It doesn't even have to be a full second, maybe half a second, and then start your next thought. That will make a big difference. So this is just some stuff that, I've learned along the way. And another thing, I haven't played with it yet, but a couple of people told me it's absolutely incredible. It's in HeyGen. It's a new feature for voice inflection. And I don't know how it works. I'm going to have to get in and play with it. But I think what it is, like if there's a way that you say something and you like emphasize it or whatever, I think you can just push that right in with a voice and then it will get it and then it's got it locked in. I think that's how it works. So if there's things that that you say that are unique and it shouldn't be just spoken, it has to be said in a certain way for an impact. That's a really good feature to be able to do that. So, and an example of that might be, saying your competition is going to absolutely kill you versus your competition, they're going to absolutely kill you. There's a big difference in the two ways I said that. One was more of like reading it, and the other was like hammering it home. And that's like voice inflection. So if there's certain things that you need to like really high impact, HeyGen has that ability now. So it's really, really cool. And it's pretty cheap. HeyGen is only $29 a month, which is, for a program like that, I really expected it to be a lot more. So I was pleasantly surprised. All right. Anything else? Anybody got anything you want me to hit on specifically before we wrap up for today? I'm trying not to ramble these on for 2 hours I got in the habit of rambling for 2 hours on you guys, and a lot of people said you got to get to the points and so we can get in and out in an hour. So we are at the hour. So at this point, anything I've missed, anything you want me to touch on? All right. Well, we will be back on next week. Oh, one more thing. I did want to share this because this is something that came from the past. And let me find it real quick here because it's a cool script. I ran across this when I was cleaning out my office and thought I should really throw this out on the call. And it's the formula or the recipe for an elevator speech. I know a lot of you have trouble telling people what you do and in a very short, concise manner. And the formula goes like this. You can either say I or we. If you're presenting yourself as a company, you can say we help and then fill in the blanks. Who do you help? And then do what? That's usually the benefit. We help X do Y, even if, and then you drop the worst case scenario in there. Like we help people swim so they don't drown, even if they have no arms and legs. That's an extreme example, but you get the point. It's we help so they can, even if worst case scenario. So I just wanted to throw that one out before it got lost in the mix. Allie, is that you, AMV?
Yes. Oh gosh, I was listening to your elevator pitch and taking notes. Gee whiz. John. I'm one of the folks that are doing the AI like AI SEO,
Oh,
AIO.
okay. The AIO Dominator?
Yes, and I wanted to know if we have the instruction videos yet, because I'm trying to figure out how to use it properly.
Let me check with Brady on that one. I know we're next week, I'm going to do a training on that. So I
Yay! Yay!
just, I've, we're doing, for those of you that don't know, we're doing a home remodel here. So my house has been torn apart for the last month and a half, and we're just kind of getting it all back together now. So next week should be a lot better, a lot less construction. And I've, there's been days when I couldn't even get on the internet because they had power down and all kinds of stuff. So next week,
You had to live on the boat, huh?
oh yeah, we were in Poland for a couple weeks, so that helped matters. So did been doing my best to get through it, but it's gonna be really cool. We got some really cool upgrades to the house, so
Hey
dialing it.
John, I do not have any instruction videos for AIO yet. We had discussed doing the
Okay.
evergreen training, so I'll cut it up whenever we do it.
Okay, yeah, I'll get in there. I'll schedule some time next week, and we'll get in there, and I'll go through each one, and they're fairly self-explanatory though. It's a fill in the blanks. So the tools are just like the tools in Quantum. You fill in the blanks, and then when it generates the report at the end of it, it should give you like instructions of what to do with that information. Like one of the tools, for instance, generates schema codes. So it should give you the instructions of, paste this in the head tag of your website and all that good stuff. But I'll go in there and answer everybody's questions and kind of walk through it. And also, hopefully, we will have the Rainmaker up and I can demo that for you guys too. So, all right, Amid.
Yeah, John, quick question. Since I have been gone for a little while,
Yeah, it's good to see you back.
thank you.
You're looking good.
Thank you, sir. Uh, I'm feeling better and better.
That's
Where
awesome.
do I find all the recordings at?
So if you log in, when we get off, I'll send you your login information
Thank you.
and then log into the members area and there'll be the recording archive in there
Yeah,
and
fantastic.
pretty much everything you need.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
absolutely.
And I'm glad to be back.
Oh, we're glad to have you back. I was kind of worried about you. They knew you were going through a lot and getting back on your feet, so it's good to see you. All right. So anything else here real quick before we wrap up for today? All right. Well, that's it then. That's it for me. I'm gonna go and shoot that email off to you, and we will see you guys next week. If you guys need me, I'm too big to hide, so you know where to find me. Have a great.
All ashore, all ashore.
Actually, you're melting away. You look great.
I know it's awesome. I love the carnivore diet. I absolutely love it. It's
That's
the only
great.
thing that's ever worked for me.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad to see you looking so great. You look wonderful.
I feel.
John, see you.
Sure.
All right, guys. Have a great week.
Bye.